It actually goes back to something I hear from the Matrix. They're machines, they have limits, and humans can break the rules, or you can always exploit the machines.
RTS AI has a problem. It gets pattern matched and exploited the moment you learn its script.
All you have to do is build a supply depot, and they just can't get through.
This is Marvin Gouw, and he's been making games for over 20 years, jumping from console to mobile to PC.
It just makes it not fun once you understand how to exploit it. I counter it, and it is failing, but it doesn't react. It doesn't go.
Now, for the last 5 years, he's been the game director for ZeroSpace, a highly anticipated new RTS, and safe to say, a spiritual successor to StarCraft 2. He wrote roughly 80% of the game's AI from scratch with one goal: pure predictability problem.
But I think like seeing the AI retreat is very human-like. It actually goes back to something I hear from the Matrix. Is like, they're machines and they have limits, and humans can break the rules, but they can be a lot more creative with how they approach things, so that you can always exploit the machines. And I think it's not from ZeroSpace itself that I saw this. It's more from actually playing bots against StarCraft stuff, right? Even any other types of games, basically. Like StarCraft, you have lots of exploits against insane AI, and that's why you sometimes play against insane AI. Is they're definitely stronger than you, they have more resources than you, but yet you can still beat them, right?
Was there an experience with an AI you watched whether or worked on that really in your mind said this is the architecture that would solve this problem? And what was that what was that moment?
I think like when you're looking at some of what StarCraft 2 tried to do, which I think a lot of other games didn't even do this, was they actually did build orders, right? They're like, this is going to be Marauder Marine rush. I'm going to rush you with Marauder Marine. And it's random, I think, based on what it decides to do at any point in time, but it'll stick to that build order. It'll stick to that time. But when it does that, and I think that the moment is when it does that, and I realize what it's doing, I counter it, and it is failing, but it will hard commit still to what it's doing. It doesn't react. It doesn't go, hey, he's countering me, I should probably not do this. It doesn't retreat, right? It's like a player would see my base. Oh, siege tanks, Marine Marauder might not be the best way to approach this or something, right? But they're just going to go in, right?
What was your mindset when it came to thinking about how you were going to approach that with ZeroSpace?
Yeah, I think basically flexibility, right? Because if you start going down the route of scripting something, and let's say the meta changes slightly, we change the game a little bit, that's a lot of maintenance you're gonna have to do. So it's very rigid, and it just breaks down really quickly and easily as once new balance changes come out. So you really want flexibility to make your AI consistent enough. And so it's really about, I don't want to babysit the AI, the code.
So if scripting is the trap, the obvious move might seem simple. Just build one AI smart enough to figure out the whole thing on its own.
Funny because I did try to stick that in. About 2 years ago, I used ChatGPT 3.5 when it came out. I just stuck that in just to see if it worked. It was really bad at it. Basically, it would just forget everything I'm telling it. And even when I'm telling it something, if I tell too much, it would, like, I would tell it like, hey, you are already on like this tech level 4. And then it starts building like supply depots again when it doesn't need it or something. It's really dumb. Yeah, and I was researching, neural networks before LLMs got popular, and I think like one of the things I was doing back in the day was there's this paper on sparse neural networks, such that you can run it on CPUs instead of GPUs. So I got something like that actually working in C++ for a while, and just like, oh, maybe it's on the CPU, it's not on the GPU, right? Like maybe I could use this later, but I never, I wasn't, it's not able, I just never had the time to completely utilize that.
With that approach then, how did you go about solving that for ZeroSpace? Because now I know that's what you want, and like you said, it's a very hard problem to solve, right?
You're making your life harder for yourself. You're basically fusing those two things together, and you could separate that. So you parse first, distill that information. So the big thing is just separating as many pieces as possible. and letting them talk to each other through more coordinated kind of API.
Instead of cramming everything into one massive brain, Marv broke it apart. A vision layer to read the map
is where we figure out all the clusters of units. So clustering, understanding clusters where the enemies are, understanding enemy strength when they see a cluster. How do the AI see the map, and funneling that information into a way that is easy to parse.
A strategy layer to pick the plan.
We have a macro strategy layer, which takes this general sense of like where I am in the text tree, what my opponents have been doing, a historical categorization of like, what's been happening. Am I on the? Do I think I'm on a losing? Should I be defending now? Should I be pushing now? Right.
A micro layer to pull the triggers.
For every ability that we have, and for every unit that we have a drop down of how the AI is supposed to effectively utilize that. And so the micro layer utilizes those abilities that way.
And the mastermind on top to keep them in sync.
And ultimately, when you look at StarCraft, right, up to GM, it doesn't matter how you micro. It really doesn't. You just A move everything. You could get up to GM with just being efficient on your macro, being clean on your builds, not wasting time, right, and making the right strategic decisions. And macro is basically the thing that we need to solve first for our AI to make it at that level where it could play. And the micro really doesn't matter that much, like for the AI until the macro reaches that level.
But are you giving it the same map and vision as the player?
Yeah.
Or okay.
Yeah. So basically the AI has to process that same, like what units are visible, right? We're not going off of we're not going off of video. We're not going off of pixels data,
no.
Right? We're just going off the fact that, hey, this unit came in vision, and we can still think about it like a human would. A human would do the same thing with the information they're given, right?
And do you use any kind of like heat map or anything for him to transition, understand the groups and the intensity of danger that comes with that group? Because you versus like say individuals and counting.
Yeah. So the clustering accounts for weapon strength, accounts for movement speed overall. Kind of see where things can end up and their general direction of movement. So they can, basically you have a good understanding of where things could end up, and also the threat level of all these things. Various things like that. Yeah.
Why did you decide to go that route?
Because I think it's really how we organize the data, right? I think if you want to make an AI that is good at playing RTS, you kind of have to understand RTS game theory. And so you need to understand like RTS about snowballing, but also like snowballing comes in many factors in RTS, right? Expansion is a form of snowballing. So you got to expand at some point. And when is that decision point to expand? When is it the best time to expand, right? All those factors come into making the AI has to know all this stuff. That's like the basic RTS principles, where you got to be able to be tight on your economy as well as your build orders. But if you don't understand that, you're not going to make an AI that can effectively play against a human, right? So humans would organize the data, I think, at least I would, the same way in my own head as I'm playing the game, right? It's like, okay, I think there's a big threat here, and then over here there's like a speedy little threat on the side. I got to think about, I want that information first to even be able to process it. And if I don't have that information, if I just have tons of units spread out all over the map as my information, I can't really make sense of it. So I do have to organize that and cluster that first before I can make decisions. And then I would be like, okay, my group here, control group 1 goes over there. Control group 2 goes over there. So I organize my own units, I organize the enemy units, and then I start interacting. And so you have fewer pieces to think about when you make the decisions. And you're not going to get into a space where the decisions are weird because you're organizing it on the right thing.
But you brought something interesting that I wanted to highlight. Explain to me your definition of snowball and how it goes, like say RTS, like snowballing in RTS. I know snowballing in a MOBA, Like I
Mhm.
totally get snowballing in mobile. It's really easy. You have heroes, and Zero Space has heroes. So I guess there's a level of which even in Warcraft 3, if anyone's a Warcraft 3 fan, knows
It's
like
yeah.
Blade Master can be so meaty. So is this the same snowballing? Or are we talking about
No, it's
snowballing?
not. It's actually worse than a MOBA. MOBAs actually put snowballing into their game with the fact that you get XP on hero death, and how much XP you get is the snowball that happens actually. If you take that away, it snowballs a lot less. If let's say everybody was rising at the same exact level, right?
Yeah.
And death doesn't actually matter, there's really not much snowball in a MOBA. So yeah, like MOBAs inherently don't have as much snowball in arcade. The reason why is the number of units, right? So if you have like 5 units versus 3 units in an RTS, a lot of times those 5 units might win with all 5 surviving. So 5 take away 3 is not 2. 5 take away 3 in an RTS is 5. Right? So that's called snowball. So basically, it's as if in a fighting game, which doesn't snowball, uh, when you punch them and they're at 5 life, they have 0 damage, right? How is your Chun-Li going to come back from 1 life and 0 damage pretty much, right? They can't. That's not how fighting games work, right?
Hmm.
But RTS games work exactly like that. When you get Chun-Li to 1 health, she has 0 damage. You're just dead, right? So inherently, it's a very tight balance. And people talk about APM speed and everything, but any RTS with enough viable strategies at any point in time, and at any like second in time where there's like 2 or 3 viable strategies, will always benefit from speed because it's a real time game. So like my thought is like you take Supreme Commander, which people think have really good strategy and less ATM intensive. If you tune that balance such that at every point in time there's like more viable strategies, you're going to be racing even more to, and you're still going to be like always like it's going to be sweaty, right? So I think that's why people call RTS a little bit sweaty, because when it's actually well balanced, when there's a lot of strategy, you're on the clock.
Does your AI organize it and play in the way that you would think of it when you were playing an RTS? Because you obviously have a lot of experience from Warcraft 3, StarCraft, whatnot. And like, is there, if you are you able to walk me through the processing of when you're playing RTS and then how that mirrors your AI?
Yeah, I think it does reflect how I organize information when I'm playing an RTS. I think foundationally you want to be very good at macro, especially macro. So you want to be efficient and clean, because RTS snowballs. So uh, I think sometimes there's this discussion around like whether the game has more strategy or less strategy. Um, but I think regardless, if the game has any branching of viable strategies, if at any moment in time 3 viable strategies are possible, right? That means it's usually a balanced game. But that also means the timing on those strategies are so essential, that it can snowball if you're not doing it at the right time. So that's already a very important basis of all this. Basically, if the AI doesn't time things correctly, doesn't get things at the right time, doesn't have the SCV there, doesn't have the builder where it needs to be at the right time, um, then you have these gaps. And when you have these gaps, the snowball at the end of the day, like 10 minutes down the line, you're not gonna be able to make an RTS that can compete against even a decent human player, basically.
You've obviously had a chance to test this internally with your team, yourself, whatnot. Like, what was your first impression of that experience with your AI?
It was
Name.
quite good. I think it was quite good. The AI it's not doing janky weird things, right? And it's actually being competitive, and even if I can beat it, it feels like it's playing the game.
Have you watched any of those games and
Mhm.
gotten a chance to critique or thought about how that AI responded to a player? Um, and did it do the behavior you expected?
Yeah, yeah. In a lot of cases, they were doing the behavior I expected. I think in some cases, like, so there's this thing where, one instance where the AI would be spawning either in waves, or some AI. I was trying to see if I could just if what if it just keeps throwing stuff at the player, right?
Oh man, did we already lose? We are playing against the Grell. Oh man.
Versus waves, and so the theory is that waves are a little better actually, but in reality it's not, because waves. What happened was when I saw people play against it, when the AI collects its units in waves, is that it gave the players actually a little bit more breathing room, so the players are able to exploit that breathing room oftentimes if they're good enough, at least, right? So actually coming in from more directions all over the map in a semi-steady stream was very hard to hold off, because it gave the player a lot less breathing room, and I think for the high level players it was more fun.
Is that because of the tension of the back and forth of the player
trying
to...
It is.
Okay.
It is.
And if someone is designing their own AI, it was like, there are tons of people who are working on designing their own AI. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I would always approach it in steps. Always, like, what's the first step that you could make that could have the most visible effectiveness? Maybe even the first AI you should be doing is just you're waiting for a certain supply count and then moving to the enemy base, right? Just like as a first thing, like, and then expand off that. And motivation is essential to be able to go all the way, and you want to give yourself that runway of just iterative dopamine of what you did to be able to keep pushing.
And what has been your golden rule to keep to that path from, like, what has been your guiding principle?
Keep decision making compartmentalized in the areas that they need to be made. Like, don't overwhelm each subsystem with more things that they need to be able to handle, right?
What point would you say is the part that someone will say, like, this feels the most human-like?
So whenever there's a reaction, a double, the AI comes in, you as a player react, and the AI reacts back. That's fun. That's interaction. That's generally how a multiplayer game is meant to be played with an opponent, right? But I think, like, seeing the AI retreat is very human-like.
Days of walling off a base and watching a bot break itself are over. New generation of AI retreats, regroups, and extra response to what you're doing.